Hey kiddies, Triple Feature Tuesday is back! And this week we're going to look at Enlightenment and flying cars. Here in my car, I feel safest of all. This one's really good and stupid. It's 3 movies in which, apropos of nothing, at the end of the film, the main characters have learned serious, important life lessons and then leave the movie in a flying car. Even though there's been no setup for a flying car in the movie at all. That's why in this real feature we will have none of the Back to the Future films, as much as I love them. But even though the first one, Back to the Future, does appear like it would fit into this criteria where the last scene is a flying car with our main characters leaving, our main characters of Marty McFly and Doc Brown have learned no life lessons at that point. There's an argument, maybe Doc Brown has sort of learned a life lesson because he does the what the hell, but Marty has learned nothing except that, you know what, if you go back in time and alter the course of your parents' and other people's lives, you can make your life exponentially nicer, which, not the best of lessons. Marty learned serious life lessons in the second 2, but by that point we know about the flying cars. I mean, by number 3, flying cars are old hats. But not in these movies, and are not set up as a movie that would have a flying car. And yet, once you get the power of self-realization and you know what your life is about, all of a sudden you can make a car fly. It's going to be amazing. So, our menu is going to go in order of... Actually, you know what? Normally I would go in order of level of enlightenment at the end of the film. But in terms of actually setting all of these up in an actual party that you could have with friends, if you have them, I'm going to go in order of, audience, attention, retention. So, our menu is going to include Grease, Southland Tales, and Repo Man. Grease is the word. And in our nostalgic romp through the 50s, our main leads of Danny Zuko and Sandy Olsen, played by John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John, respectively, have to figure out how to balance being prim and proper and being a greaser. Granted, there are all sorts of other plot lines, including Rizzo maybe being pregnant, Frenchie deciding whether or not to, stay in high school or become a beautician. Fun fact, neither choice really works for her, and in the sequel she ends up back in high school because Frenchie's an idiot. There's also Sid Caesar running around, and Kinnicky trying to, get his car, Grease Lightning, up to snuff to beat all the other guys in a dead heat. But mainly, we're worried about Danny and Sandy, who met over summer for some lovin', come from 2 different worlds, but while they were together in the summer, they could ignore who they were back home and just have fun and fall in love. But oh shit, they have found each other back in the quote-unquote real world, and now need to decide who they want to be. And it's kind of great, because by the end of the movie, they've been flirting with going back and forth through the whole thing, and by the end of the movie, they meet perfectly halfway, and discover that they can just be themselves, and everything's going to be fine. So Sandy becomes a bit of a greaser by the end of the movie, and Danny becomes like a letterman in track. But once they figure out that everything is okay if you just love each other and be who you're supposed to be, everything will be fine. And, of course, we sum this all up with a song, You're the One That I Want. And after that, we have the We'll Always Be Together wrap-up number. And everybody's happy, and everybody's got a bright future. And Danny and Sandy get into a car and literally fly away. In the 50s. In a car that doesn't seem to have any sort of apparatus to make it fly, but they go away. Because they have the power of seeing through societal norms and or fake, arbitrary societal separations between who you are and who you're supposed to be. And, they have come out on the other side of it, and their love and their self-confidence is enough to power a car to fly. Next we have Richard Kelly's 2006, what could turn out to be his magnum opus, Southland Tales, a movie about things. It is nominally a sci-fi movie. It takes place in the 2 years into the then future. It takes place in 2008, but it came out in 2006. And yeah. It starts off with episode 4, which, you know, okay, everybody loves a good Star Wars reference, but what? Actually, episodes 1 through 3 were originally published in this prequel comic, which, I gotta tell you, I have read through this quite a few times, and no, the movie still doesn't make any sense. But I find it fascinating. It's really long, which is the concern about having this as the second movie, but I think we can get over the hump as long as you explain to people that it's not going to be a good movie per se, but it's going to be an interesting movie to watch, especially, you know, in filmmaking terms, an interesting failure to watch. Like, every time I watch it, I really believe that there is a movie that makes sense, not in terms of this just is a whole bunch of insanity that I will never get, but in terms of A would lead to B leads to C. The movie is quite long as it is, but you get the feeling that so much of it, so much of the connective tissue was cut out, not just the stuff that was like left for the prequel comic book, which, man, those always work out well. Lots of people like buying a comic book to find out what's going on in the movie they're also paying for. It is about the future. It is about a presidential election and trying to avoid that, and also possibly avoiding the end of the world or causing the eschaton. It really depends on what you think the end of the world is. But it has a zillion and one things that will keep you occupied as you watch the film. Like The Rock with dissociative identity disorder, Buffy the Vampire as a porn star, Stifler as a Christ figure, Mandy Moore as the second tallest person in the film, honestly, and her vice president's wife, daughter, Miranda Richardson as a scary Big Brother figure. So many Saturday Night Live alums playing characters that you would never expect, like Amy Poehler playing a poser poet jerk in makeup, with Avon Barksdale as her husband, and Sherry O'Terry as a really scary, violent rollerblader, and John Lovitz as a bleached, blonde, evil, corrupt police officer. Also, there's Justin Timberlake lip-syncing to the Killers, because that's a thing that could happen. There's perpetual motion devices that double as drugs that you can inject into your neck, and MacGuffins. There's Curtis Armstrong, there's Wallace Shawn, there's Zelda Rubinstein, there's cars, fucking, there's Christopher Lambert in an ice cream truck, and Eli Roth getting killed on a toilet with his hairy fucking legs. There's this guy with this mohawk who's never explained. He's vaguely hinted at who he is in relationship to everybody else in the comic books, but not really. And by the end of all of this, everything has gone completely to hell. The world is ending. There's a riot in LA, and the two Sean William Scotts realize that they are not in fact twins, that they are the same person that has been doubled, and they still feel bad about accidentally wounding Justin Timberlake in the war in Iraq. But when they shake hands and they come together, they start lifting the aforementioned ice cream truck off the ground into the sky and creating all sorts of energy. Because if you were able to truly forgive yourself for the things that you feel bad about, you would achieve a level of enlightenment and confidence that would transcend all these other people on the ground that are mired in all of their regrets and worries and concerns, and you would become the new Jesus. That's the end of that movie. Like, the movie, like, literally ends with Sean William Scott staring into the eye of the other Sean William Scott, forgiving himself, and realizing that they are Jesus, and this is the new Jerusalem. So maybe it's not the end of the world so much as the end of an age, and we're moving into a new one, where there will be peace, and love, and dick jokes, as far as the eye can see. Finally, we have Alex Cox's Repo Man, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I mean, it's just crazy. It's about Otto, played by Emilio Estevez, and Bud, played by Harry Dean Stanton. They're the titular Repo Men, among others, and they're just going around causing shenanigans and basically repossessing people's cars. It's not car theft, even though it employs all of the same skills, but technically you're behind on your payments, and you don't have legal rights to your car anymore, which really sucks, because you're probably trying, unless you're not, and you're a jerk, and I don't know why I'm defending you. You guys never even talked to me. But anyway, the main MacGuffin of the film is the Chevy Malibu that has a $20,000 bounty on it, because of whatever is in the trunk. We never see what is in the trunk, but it apparently emits a bright light that can vaporize things, and it's being driven by a guy who at best has had a lobotomy, and at worst, his brain is leaking out of his skull because of something akin to radiation poisoning, which is probably due to the thing in the trunk, but we don't know. All we know is that the life of a Repo Man is always intense. There is no product placement. Everything is just labeled what it is because of this weird, freaky, dystopian landscape called Edge City that the movie takes place in. Everything about it is awesome. It's subversive. It's weird. I'm lying. There was one product placement. It was the tree car fresheners, which is why you will see them everywhere, including on a motorcycle at one point, which is just brilliant. But by the end of the movie, Otto has been stripped of all his cares. He has no friends. He has no real job. His parents don't give a shit. He has no girlfriend. He doesn't care about anything, and he realizes that, he's free. And so he gets into the car, the Chevy Malibu, which at this point is glowing. It is just this green, phosphorescent glow that is not explained by anything, but will burn and freak out people that try to get in it. Except for Tracy Walter's character, who has been a complete weirdo throughout the whole film. But, I mean, come on, it's Tracy Walter. His bread and butter is playing a weirdo. He was asshole buddies with Jonathan Demme and was in all of his movies, including Silence of the Lambs and Philadelphia. But he's probably best known for being the Joker's #1 guy, Bob, in Tim Burton's Batman, which is much better than people think it is. But anyway, Tracy Walter gets into the car, no problem. Otto, Emilio Estevez, gets into the car, also no problem. And then they literally float up from the parking lot and fly away into the sky. And presumably adventures that you can only get on when you achieve a certain level of enlightenment, which is that all worldly goods and concerns don't matter, and to just go off into space and the sky. In a car, a Chevy Malibu. I forget what the thing was in Greece. It was probably some 50s car. And then it was an ice cream truck in Southland Tales. But, I mean, yeah, the car was weird. There was something in it. But at no point did we think, oh, it's just going to fly away. Excitingly. And with the really good Tito Lariva surf music at the end. But, okay. Why not? At this point, anything was possible in Repo Man, and definitely in Southland Tales. Grease, it's still kind of a left field, what the fuck, did you really know how to end this movie sort of thing? But we'll allow it. Probably most of the people you have hanging out with you will allow it if you get them drunk enough, and if they're still awake at that point. Because again, you hook them in with Grease, which is familiar, and they're okay with it. Try to get them through Southland Tales, which is long but so interestingly weird. And then Repo Man, which is just unquestionably one of the best movies ever made, and anybody that says different is stupid. So, I hope to see you guys more often now, and hopefully that'll happen. And if not, I will see you when I see you.